Thank you so much for joining us, Corey Lewandowski. Welcome to the Grace Curley Show.
Well, Grace, congratulations. Happy New Year, and I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. First of all, Corey, what is the president's, I think this is what people are really curious about, what is the president's current mood as he enters his last 10 days in office? With last week was obviously extremely chaotic and upsetting. How is he feeling right now going into this final stretch?
Well, look, the president wants to have the opportunity over the course of really what's going to be the next 8 days to do the work of the American people, and he's been resolved in that. And I can tell you that because I was with him last week, that a lot of people are trying to insinuate and guess and speculate about what he's going to do post his presidency. And he said, look, let me just continue to be the President of the United States. Let me continue to make sure our country stays safe. Let me make sure that our men and women in uniform are protected. And then, when I leave this office on January 20th, we'll discuss what I'm going to do next. But right now, I can tell you he is completely focused on continuing to be the commander-in-chief. He's in the Oval Office all day long. I know he was meeting today with a number of Border Patrol officials before he departs tomorrow for Alamo, Texas, where he will see the 450 miles of the wall that his administration has built to prevent the flow of illegal immigration into the country.
Yeah, just one of his many accomplishments over the last 4 years. Corey, it's seeming more and more like the Democrats are going to try for impeachment a second time. I saw something on the TV a few minutes ago that the White House said this is strictly political. Obviously it is. But how does Trump feel about this? Is he angry? Is he more just thinking to himself, let them go ahead. You're going to put me in the spotlight for another 100 days. What is his thought process on this?
I didn't speak to the president directly about this, but I will say this, Grace. For these liberals and the Democrats who say, we have to unite our country and we can't have these divisions. And you know what? They are going to have the Oval Office. They're going to have the House of Representatives. They're going to have the U.S. Senate. They have an opportunity to bring the country together. And the first course of action that they have before they've even taken office for 15 seconds is trying to impeach a president who's leaving office in 10 days. And I don't see how that brings the country together. I don't see how that helps to reunite the 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump in the last election cycle. I don't see that at all. And so, if Nancy Pelosi, and to Leslie Stahl's credit last night in the 60 Minutes interview, if Nancy Pelosi wanted to unite the country, she wouldn't even be talking about this, because what she would say is, you know what, we won the election, let's go move their liberal agenda and their liberal policies forward, and let's let Donald Trump leave office, because you have seen constitutional expert after constitutional expert on television, including Jonathan Turley, who said he never voted for the president but understands the Constitution, saying what the president said at that rally last Wednesday does not only rise to the level of an impeachment, but it doesn't even rise to the level of criminal activity. And so, if we're going to have snap impeachments, as it is called, meaning an impeachment which is going to take place within the next 6 or 10 days without any hearing or any information presented, it's a very, very dangerous precedent for our country moving forward.
And Corey, another thing I wanted to say was, speaking of Democrat leadership, Joe Biden, the president-elect, won't even comment on whether or not he thinks that Congress should go through with this impeachment. And I find that to be very telling, because if you're going to be the president of the United States, people have their problems with Donald Trump. But one thing you could always say about him is he's not afraid to tell you his opinion, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks is a good idea or a bad idea. The fact that Joe Biden wouldn't immediately say, listen, I ran on unifying the country, we cannot impeach this guy, especially not 100 days after I'm president. What does that tell you about Joe Biden and the position he has amongst his liberal, support system?
Well, it tells you Joe's not a leader. I know he's going to be the president of the United States, but he's not a leader, and he's going to be weak. And what's going to happen is the far left of the Democratic Party is going to continue to set the agenda, AOC and Rashid Tlaib and Presley and so many others. And Joe Biden is so afraid to go against them that he won't even come out and say, for the good of the country, we shouldn't impeach the current president of the United States. And remember, on January 5th of 2017, Joe Biden was told during the transition period that Hillary Clinton's staffer made up the whole Russia collusion narrative, the whole hoax. Never once in 4 years, as they were attempting to impeach Donald Trump for crimes that they say he committed, did Joe Biden ever have the desire or ability to step forward and say, you know what, none of this is true. Joe Biden is clearly a leader. That's what happens when you're in public office for 50-plus years now. And, he can't point to one signature piece of legislation he's ever sponsored that he's still proud of after 48 years in the United States Senate and the vice president's office. So Joe is going to get run over by the bus, and it's going to be called the progressive bus, and that bus is going to go all over Joe, and he's not going to have any control of what's going on.
Corey, my next question for you is, what is the current relationship between Vice President Mike Pence and President Donald Trump? I mean, I know they had a great working relationship for the last 4 years. I know a lot of people have speculated that there's, infighting with them, and that Pelosi called Pence for the 25th Amendment discussion. He left her on hold, I believe. But are the two of them talking? Is it still a cordial relationship?
Well, I know the president has enormous respect for Mike Pence, and Mike Pence has been a phenomenal vice president, and I have said this, and I'll continue to say it. I was the chairman of the Vice Presidential Selection Committee for the Donald Trump campaign some 5 years ago, and we came down to 3 final candidates who could have been selected to be the vice president nominee, and I advocated for Mike Pence at that time and thought he has done an amazing job for this president. So, look, the president has enormous respect for Mike Pence. He knows that he has been by his side for the last 4 years, and it's not always easy. And so, the vice president has broken ties in the Senate when it needed to be. He's helped move legislative things that the president's priorities have been through the U.S. Senate and used his relationships there. Has there been some strain in the last week? I think that's fair to say. But at the end of the day, you're going to look back on these two individuals, and you're going to see that by and large, they've had a very, very, very close working relationship over really what's been the last 5 years.
And Corey, my one issue, I would say, with my biggest issue with Trump over the last 4 years was that he didn't have enough people like you surrounding him, Corey Lewandowskis, who are not afraid to fight, kind of not afraid to stand up for what they believe in obviously a peaceful way, but not swamp creatures. There seem to be a lot of swamp creatures, and I would not say that Vice President Mike Pence was one of them. I would say he was more on the end of the spectrum that you're on, which is you defend the president when you need to, but you're honest about, what needs to happen.
Well, Grace, I'll tell you, I sat my family down last week for dinner. I was in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday and Wednesday. I saw the chaos that was taking place down there. When I got back from Washington here in New Hampshire, I sat my family down. I said, hey, guys, you remember when I told you I would never tolerate what Black Lives Matter is doing, going around destroying police substations and throwing Molotov cocktails at police and hurting innocent people? And my kid said yes, and I said, let me just be crystal clear. I don't tolerate what took place at the U.S. Capitol. We will never allow that in a civilized society, and we continue to stand with the men and women in law enforcement, and the fact that a police officer was killed at the U.S. Capitol, to me, is completely unacceptable. Yeah. But what I then said to them was, you have to look at the way the media has talked about these different incidents, and, one of the great icons of, CNN politics was standing outside a burning building and saying, well, these are mostly peaceful protests as the buildings are burning behind him. And, then you go and you look at what Chris Cuomo has said in the past. Chris Cuomo has said in the past, and he said, hey, you show me where a protest has to be peaceful. And all of a sudden you fast forward to what transpired in Washington. And again, I'm not condoning what transpired in Washington on Wednesday, absolutely not. But I'm looking at the media coverage of it, and just on a factual basis, just an empirical data, the coverage of the Black Lives Matter movements was by and large positive from the mainstream media, and the coverage of conservatives descending on the Capitol was by and large negative. And I think that's what drives the American people crazy the most, is the hypocrisy of the left. I've been willing to call out people being wrong on Wednesday in the U.S. Capitol, just like I called out the Black Lives Matter movement for the destruction of private property and attacking innocent people and the harming of police officers and police substations and property. And I will do the exact same thing when conservatives or Donald Trump supporters do it, but it's not a two-way street, and I think that's what is most disappointing for people who look at the coverage and say, boy, we have some real problems with our media entities in this country, including Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, because they can ban the President of the United States. What can they do to me?
And Corey, I do want to get to my real question for you. I know you're a New England guy, and I want to ask you about Bill Belichick. But before I get to that, it's something that's been bothering me over the past couple of days. People who are jumping ship now with like 4 days left of the Trump presidency. I'm talking about Mick Mulvaney, Betsy DeVos. What is the end game here, that they'll maybe get invited on CNN, or they'll get that, that strange new respect from the Washington Post. Why are they trying to act like this is something that they are blaming Donald Trump for, when anyone, including you and me, could say that this was the actions of too many crazy people and it was bad? But I don't understand this jump to say, oh, I'm leaving this administration. I couldn't possibly stomach this when there's 8 days left.
Well, we've seen this now time and time again. What happens is some of these individuals went into the administration for their own reasons to benefit themselves. Some did it for tax reasons. And what many people don't know, if you're a really rich guy and you do a year of government service, they defer the taxes on all the items that you're required to sell, so that for a 10-year period. So if you're Gary Cohn, who was the former president of Goldman Sachs and was worth $400 million, and your tax bill was coming due, you go work for government service for a year, guess what you do? You get to postpone that. And now, you leave after a year and you've got a 10-year tax reprieve, and that's an enormous value. And I'm not saying that's the reason Betsy DeVos did it, but I just don't understand it, to be honest with you. And look, I have never hidden the fact that I'm a Donald Trump supporter. I think, some people want to attack me and have attacked my family for it, and, it's been negative at times. But guess what? This is America, and I'm going to fight for what I believe in. I'm going to do so in a manner which I think is respectful as often as it can be. But I'm also not going to let people push me around. And, a lot of people made a lot of money off of this president, including probably Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Stripe and all of these other companies. And as soon as he's no longer in power, they're looking to destroy him as quickly as possible. And I really think it's shameful.
I totally agree with you, especially Betsy DeVos, because I think about all the terrible things that were said about her and the terrible pieces that were written. And Donald Trump never turned his back on her or a lot of these people, and they're so quick to turn their back on him. But Corey, before I let you go, please tell us what the title of your latest book is called, where people can find it. And also, my last question for you is, Bill Belichick, will he accept the Medal of Freedom from President Trump? Do you know, has he talked to Trump about it already? Is it confirmed? People are dying to know this.
Well, look, I love Bill Belichick, Coach Belichick. I think he is going to go down as one of the greatest football coaches in the history of football. I can't believe he's not in the Hall of Fame yet, which is a little crazy to me. That being said, I think it would be a mistake not to accept that from President Trump. Look, they have a long-standing friendship. The president and him have been compatriots for a long time. They talk sports a lot, and I know how much respect the president has for Bill and what he's accomplished, and it is an amazingly important honor to get. So I hope he will be there on Thursday to get that. I don't know for sure. And look, Grace, to answer your first question, second, after Coach Belichick, my latest book is called Trump America First, and just because he will not be the president of the United States in 10 days, that doesn't mean you don't have the same philosophy, which is putting America first and not every other country first. And I think it's a very simple premise. We've got a lot of problems in our country. We've got economic problems. We've got violence problems. We've got a lot of different problems. And what we saw in that COVID relief bill was tens of billions of dollars being sent to countries overseas to take care of everybody else when we're not taking care of ourselves. And I don't think the America First philosophy is going away. I think you're going to see a resurgence of it in 2 years, because I believe the Democrats will overstep their bounds, and you'll see a big win for Republicans in the House and the Senate in 2022.
Let's hope so, Corey. And I agree with you. I think we didn't even realize how strongly opposed to the America First agenda Democrats were until Donald Trump became the president, and then it became very frighteningly clear. Thank you so much for joining us, Corey Lewandowski. Guys, my first deal for the Follansbee Inn sold out right away. Everyone knows how much I love the Follansbee Inn. It's located on the pristine Kezar Lake in North Sutton, New Hampshire. Dennis has put so much love and attention into the design of the 17 unique historic guest rooms. I stayed at the most beautiful guest room. It just looked out onto the lake. It was so perfect. My parents also visited the Follansbee Inn, and they couldn't get over the complimentary homemade breakfast. Dennis is from New Orleans, so he cooks you up a Southern breakfast every morning. It is so delicious. And my parents not only went after they heard me talk about it, they got the deal that we ran last week, so they'll be going back again. Everything is made from scratch during the breakfast, including the biscuits. You may feel like you're back in your grandmother's kitchen. This time of the year, you can take advantage of Follansbee Inn's snowshoes and discover the beautiful area. Of course, at the end of the day, you'll want to sit in front of the fire and enjoy a cocktail. That's what I did. Bought a bottle of wine. They have a beautiful little kitchenette. You can leave your stuff in there and just sit by the fire. It's so quintessential New England. It's absolutely lovely. To reserve your room today, go to follensbyin.com. Excellence is assured. TripAdvisor has awarded the Follensby Inn their Hall of Fame Award for 2018 and 2019. Follensbyin.com, the best of the past. We will be right back. This is The Grace Curley Show.